Welcome. So yes, there is this thing that has happened. My exhibition, my video project, the map that you see behind me, was vandalized on September 14th. And I want to start by saying that the reason why I like Korea so much, the reason why Korea is great, is that things like this usually don't happen. But it unfortunately happened to me about 1.5 weeks ago. I want to give you my story. I want to tell you what has happened because the media has been on top of it. They published their own version of the story, but it's best that you hear it from me directly. So here we go. For those who are new to the channel, my name is Bart from the Netherlands. And in September 2022, I started a new project called 웰컴투마이동, Dong as in neighborhood. And in this project, I explore all the 467 neighborhoods in Seoul. One by one, I dive into the history, the culture, because the city has been changing quite rapidly and things disappear and are being replaced by other things. Stories get lost, history get lost, architecture get lost and whatnot. So I try to archive the city and try to document it before it's too late. So that's what we do here on this channel. And every time I finish exploring one of the neighborhoods, I draw it on the map that I made behind me. Now this map is a story in itself. It all started in a basement office that I had in Hapjeong. We painted it on the wall. I made a mistake. I mixed up two different administrative divisions, had to paint it again. Then we used it for some time. It started to look quite colorful, but then we had to move out of the office because of financial reasons and also because the map on the wall wasn't sustainable. So we had to come up with a different solution. Then I went to Algero, to the steel workers, and asked if they could customize this map for me. They said yes, which was quite expensive because it's aluminum, it's heavy, it's over 4 square meters. It's bigger than me. I'm almost 2 meters tall. So we drew the map again and started to color the neighborhoods that I've explored. And again, it started to look quite colorful. The map itself is just a map of the city, a version that doesn't exist though, because it's based on the Bopcheongdong administrative or legal status, I should say, division. A map like that exists online, but nobody's using it like this. And this map has a story because every neighborhood that I color is related to one of the videos I uploaded on my YouTube channel, the videos I uploaded on Instagram. Another neighborhood can be colored. Let us call this one the comeback of the sound of Water Valley. The photos that I posted, the things and history that I've learned, the experiences, the people that I've met, and so forth and so forth. So it's not just a map, it's the whole story around it and the importance of archiving the city and the neighborhoods. Now, while doing this series, I had my ups and downs, but I just came out of a bigger down period, one that I initially hadn't experienced yet. I felt a bit depressed and I decided to take a break of 2 months. You may not have noticed, but during those 2 months, I didn't upload any neighborhood video. Instead, I uploaded 3 interviews with 3 of my regular neighborhood guests, people who introduce neighborhoods, who know a lot about these neighborhoods. And I decided to shine a light on them because it's somehow easier to do that, it's easier to make. So I was like, okay, this is good. I can do this instead of those neighborhood videos and get my rest and come back more freshly, more stronger, and more willingly to finish this project. So I started uploading again, I think 2 or 3 neighborhoods. And in the meantime, I was also preparing the exhibition to display the work in progress, the map, all the photos of all these 95 neighborhoods. So there were like 10 photos of each neighborhood that I put on display, the story of the map, the way I made it, publications, people could share their own stories of the neighborhoods. And this exhibition was supposed to happen at the gallery Domansa in Seongsu. So on the 9th of September, after days of hard labor, it was a lot of, I wasn't expecting it, but I didn't know there goes so much work into preparing an exhibition, which was really fun though, because at first you don't know where to start and where to begin and what to do, but once the ball is rolling, you're in the workflow and suddenly there it is, an exhibition, and you're ready to show it to the people. So I was at that point. The exhibition was ready to be opened on September 9th. And the exhibition was supposed to be open from September 9th to September 23rd, and depending on how well it would do, we could maybe extend it, so longer than 23rd. So we opened on the 9th. I announced I would be there on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd day, and on the 15th, that would be a Sunday of the first week that the exhibition was open. So already the first day, over 100 people came. So it was actually a big success. I met many subscribers from all over the world: Germany, Australia, America, Nepal, India. It was great. And then on the 15th, I was going back to the gallery in the morning because the gallery opened at 10 a.m. and closed at 5 p.m. After that, door was supposed to be locked. People weren't supposed to go inside anymore. So that was clearly announced on all my social media platforms. So on Sunday morning, I was in the car on my way until I got a message from the gallery owners sending me photos of this map with some doodling on it. And they asked me, Bart, were you aware of this, or did you do this? Was this your idea? And I was like, what are you talking about? Of course not. Who would write on my map? And then they said, oh, okay. So then I guess the map is being vandalized. So at this point, I was boiling. I was furious when I heard the news for the first time. It's like, no way somebody just did that. The moment you hear news like this, there are immediately certain assumptions that shoot through your head. At first I thought, okay, these are probably young kids or maybe young students who did this, because who else would be so idiotic to do such a thing? But yeah, then I was like, okay, no, stop with all these imaginations and assumptions and wait for the CCTV footage. I called my wife, she came over, and we reported the case to the police because they literally drew these stupid things on a map. Just like, okay, so I felt even more disrespected after seeing that. So we reported this to the police. And the first thing I did on arrival was recording. So this is what I recorded that same morning because I was so emotional and I immediately wanted to get it on camera just in case I need it for the police or as evidence. I don't know what I was thinking. I was emotional. So this is what I recorded. All right, guys, I need to show you something. A week ago, I started an exhibition to show my 웰컴투마이동 project in Seongsu at a gallery called Domansa. The first 3 days I was present here. I received guests, talked to subscribers, strangers, whoever came by. And then the other days it was just open for anyone who wanted to see the map, the photos and everything else, but then without me being here. Now, today it's Sunday the 15th, and I just received a message from the gallery that somebody vandalized the map. Something is written here, something is written here, something is written here. They tried to paint over here, and also something is painted over here. I thought it would have been a nice idea to show the project to anyone who want to see it with their own eyes. But never ever did I imagine that someone with his idiotic fucking brains would vandalize the map like this. You don't go to a gallery and paint over a painting to say thank you or whatever. I don't have words at the moment. I'm quite emotional. Today, this Sunday, I know many people will come to see the exposition.
You might be wondering about the paint. It was part of the exhibition, with photos in the background showing us painting the map and providing an explanation of the process. Everything was neatly and cleanly displayed. Tape, scissors, brushes, and bow and arrow from the video, and a photo description. On a different table, crayons were clearly provided for a guestbook, as explained in both Korean and English right beside it. But they used both, and didn't even clean any of the brushes, dropped paint on floor and table, and also dropped paint on the bow and arrow. Over 400 visitors understood this. The guestbook was for leaving messages, not the map.
Yeah, we filed a report with the police. Police came pretty quickly after a few minutes. Not much later that day, the detectives came. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, but the detectives came and they started to get these fingerprints on the map, on the door, on the brushes, on the paint, just anything that could serve as evidence. They checked the CCTV that we received from the gallery, and they probably checked the CCTV in the streets as well. I also received the CCTV from the gallery, and I was looking at the video. And with my previous thinking that it would be a student or a young kid, I was surprised to see that it was a man and a woman that didn't look young at all, and they came in the middle of the night around 1:52 a.m. in the morning. So Friday night, Saturday morning, a day before I came to the gallery. They just walked in, and in less than 6 seconds, they started drawing on the map. Didn't look around, didn't read any descriptions, didn't seem too drunk either. I'm not sure if they even were drunk, but it all just made me feel even worse. It's like, wow, this doesn't look like an accident. It doesn't look like, it actually looks really intentional. So I was even more pissed and happy that we reported this to the police, not only for the damages done, because I also had to shut down the exhibition. We were halfway through, and I had to shut it down a week earlier and potentially even longer, because I couldn't leave the map unattended anymore. While the police was doing their investigation, many visitors came. So it was a bonus show of a kind. They also could see the vandalized map. They could enjoy the exhibition. I was there to explain certain things, and at the same time, the police was doing their research. It was so unreal. But then, what I didn't expect that day is when I went home, I noticed that the media picked up on my Instagram post that I posted in the morning. Because the moment I arrived and saw the vandalism on the map, I wanted to share that with my audience, because the map has always been a huge part of the story that I'm trying to tell about the city. It's always been a central point. I always show the map. This was suddenly part of the story, so I wanted to share it. Also, I wanted to announce to people that the exhibition would be closed from that moment on. Unfortunately, still many people came the week after who kind of missed the news and my announcement, and they were standing in front of the closed door. So I'm really sorry for those people. But what I didn't expect when I came home is that the media picked up on my message on Instagram. They wrote many articles. So we're already that same day over 20 publications. Without me knowing, it was going viral. So yeah, all this media attention. But yeah, okay, so what do? We filed a report. The detectives did got their fingerprints, checked the CCTV. We got the CCTV. Their faces were pretty clear. I'm not allowed to show this. So we were pretty confident that they would find them quickly. But that Sunday was a day before Chuseok. So Chuseok started, and during Chuseok, we just couldn't get in touch with the police anymore. So we didn't know what was going on. And in the meantime, I received 2 DMs on Instagram. It looked like they were fake accounts, not real names, but they were supposedly the culprits who did the vandalism, and they saw it on the news, and they probably felt the heat underneath them and felt the need to apologize and a message to me. Not sure if they were hoping that I would say, okay, sure, whatever, now we're good. So instead, what I did, I read the message, of course, and it said something like this, like, we were young and stupid. It's like, okay, so you were young and stupid, but on the footage, the CCTV footage, it really doesn't look like you were young. Yes, stupid, but not young. So I didn't like the phrasing, the wording of their apology, making it sound like they were indeed young and stupid, but they weren't. So how sincere was his apology? So all I said to them was, okay, listen up, just report yourself to the police and they will take it from there. They said, yeah, okay, we will. Then they messaged me and they said, okay, it's Chuseok, so we couldn't. The office was closed. It's like, okay, sure. Then after Chuseok, we got a call from the detective. She told us that, she will call us that Friday to let us know if they reported themselves to the police. It was on that day that we were supposed to get the phone call from the detective, which we didn't. I think it was that day that the media suddenly started a new massive publication streak about this, saying that, hey, the 2 culprits, they were caught by the police. And I read it in the news before I heard it directly from the police. And it was in those publications that I learned about the age of the two culprits, the man and the woman. So according to the articles, the woman was in her 20s and the man was in his 30s. Now, I still think I'm on the younger side of the spectrum, but I don't call myself young anymore, and I didn't already for quite some time. Not young as in an excuse to do stupid things like that. And also because one of their explanations in those articles was, we didn't know it was an art gallery. I was like, okay, well, that gives you the reason to walk randomly into someone's room, someone's private space, and start painting on whatever there is in the room. It just didn't make sense. So none of the information I received until that point made me feel like, okay, maybe it's time to forgive them. Yeah, so a little bit disappointed that I didn't hear it from the police before I heard it from the media. And then the media was asking me to comment on the situation, and I couldn't do anything because I didn't hear from the police yet. Then I received also a message from one of the culprits saying that, okay, he or she reported to the police. It's like, okay, so, well, that is done. Now we need to hear from the police. Then the weekend started, and again, we had to wait 2 days, and then on Monday, well, finally we heard from the police. This came at the wrong moment because I was just starting to feel better. And then suddenly, these two people did this. We were advised that the best solution for us was to settle with them directly. And we were like, yeah, let's try, let's do this. And also what was being said is that regardless of your settlement, they will be punished accordingly. So no matter whether you want to settle or not, or whether you want to go to court or not, they will be punished accordingly. And that's something between the police and them. So the detective gave the phone number and we called them, and we thought really well and deeply about how much we want to be compensated. And then we did the calculations, we came up with a number, and we called. They said, okay, this is what we think you should compensate us with. And if you do that, we will try, or we will forget about the situation. I will move on, you can move on. And that's when they said, yes, sure. I don't want to disclose how much because I think that is between us and the culprits. But what I can tell you, and also to show you that I really never did this for the money. In fact, I really never wanted this to happen to me because it's just so freaking annoying and it gave me a lot of stress. I will donate the full sum fully to the Korean or the Dutch Korean War Veteran Association in the Netherlands. In the past, I've made a lot of videos with Dutch Korean War veterans. There are not many alive. We talk about 50, maybe 60 Dutch veterans that are still alive. So I just wanted to say that to you. And why I was so disappointed is not it's just that this whole situation distracted everyone so much from what I tried to achieve. What I really want to focus on is exploring these neighborhoods, find these stories, the hidden history, the fascinating stories of these neighborhoods, try to identify what it is about, try to film and capture and archive what's going to change soon. Walk around with these local experts, talk to local Korean people, learn about Korean food and the culture, and see the beauty beyond everything mainstream at the moment. For overflown with mainstream and trendy stuff that we sometimes forget that the city does have to offer so much more. And it has become my personal mission to finish this project and explore all the 467 neighborhoods and get this entire map colored and done, and then hopefully can do another exhibition and share my experiences with people in person. Around 400 people came to the exhibition the first week, so that was quite promising. Also for the second week, that never happened. 400 people, like I said earlier, from all over the world. I could look them in the eyes and I could see and understand why they do appreciate the project, and I could explain to them why I am doing this project, and they could see the scale all at once, like, wow, there's actually something bigger is going on here. It's not just a map that is colored like any child could do. No, it's not. So I do want to say thank you so much for everyone who came to the exhibition. I guess it is what it is. And also this, we will overcome. Me, myself, my wife, us all together. So as always, we finish the video by saying houdoe, the way we say bye in the south of the Netherlands. And I hope to see you in the next neighborhood video. And we will continue coloring the map behind me after it's fixed, of course. Sorry, this video has been way too long. but it's unscripted, and it's just me and my feelings.